How did you get into script writing?
Yeah, so my story is that, 2 years ago I was in the military and, in Singapore you have to do military for 2 years. So I went from, being pretty good in school, having an academic background to going to the military where you're just told instructions and you're just told what to do. So I was just, in the military, I had nothing to do. So I started writing online. So I started off writing online on Twitter, and that's where I kind of got my first start. That's where I understood how to, write short form and, write tweets and really understand brand. And then from there, I did that for about 8, 9 months. And then I got into YouTube script writing. I started working with a YouTube agency. So a YouTube agency that worked with education companies. And just from there, I spent 4 months writing 300 scripts. I decided to put in as many reps as possible in a short amount of time. And then in January, I launched my script writing agency, and I guess it all took off from there. Yeah.
So you seeing a lot of success with your own agency then?
Yeah, we've scaled from about zero to about 30K a month
Okay.
in the span of, like three to 6 months, I would say. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. That's impressive, man.
Appreciate that.
So I like your approach of just volume, just doing a bunch of it. I love that approach. That's my personal approach with things. It's just if you're gonna do it thousands of times, do it hundreds of times, just keep doing it. So I like that approach. That's awesome.
Yeah, one of the things that really gave me a lot of conviction in YouTube script writing and deciding to go all in was that I like early on when I started YouTube script writing, I tried to look at a lot of the education around how to actually write a great YouTube script. So I was scrolling Twitter, Twitter there's a couple guys, and I was scrolling YouTube, and on YouTube there is very limited education, and most of the videos that I found on how to write a great script was about 10, 12, 15 minutes long maybe. And that is by far just not enough in order to learn, this one specific skill, right? Especially writing so multifaceted. How are you supposed to learn it in like a 15-minute video?
Right.
So because, I kind of found that there was a gap there and there really isn't great education. And, if there isn't great education, I can't imagine that there would be, that many great script writers. And, turns out that's kind of right. Whenever I talk to YouTubers, whenever I talk to creators, the greatest struggle is always hiring a scriptwriter because there's a ton of editors out there, but there are very few scriptwriters who understand, certain niche topics and is able to execute on a high level while understanding YouTube. So once I figured out that, okay, there was a gap there, I kind of had the thesis that there was a gap there. I wanted to learn as fast as possible so that I could become the best at what I was doing. So that's kind of why I went all in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've succeeded at that then to go that scale of 0 to 30K in a month. Like that's awesome, man. And so are you staying in the educational niche or have you kind of branched out now?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I really believe in is to just become really good at one niche and become the niche of one, or become the best at whatever you do. So really, I come from a Twitter background. I used to tweet a lot. I still do tweet a lot, and a lot of the content that I consumed was around the education space. So that's talking like Google ads, Facebook ads, that's SEO, that's code email, literally anything under education. We write for 40 plus niches, all the way from trading, finance, all the way to whatever niche topics like quant trading, love and relationships. Really, it's all under education, and that's something I'm super familiar with. I might branch out to entertainment in the future, but really, I just want to leverage where I'm more knowledgeable at, and just get better at it. Yeah.
I agree with that. You're doing great. Why branch out? Why not just really niche down and focus on
Exactly. Yeah.
something? It's definitely, I don't want to say, no, I do want to say it is easier. It's easier to go that route because when you're trying to go out to multiple niches, you're like, it's like scatterbrain. It's like you're all over the place as opposed to just a focus. So I agree with that.
Yeah.
That's definitely a good approach. So what's a big mistake, probably the biggest mistake you see script writers making?
I wouldn't say there's one biggest mistake. I would just say that there is a lack of, just putting yourself out there.
Mm.
A lot of script writers, how do they get their clients? It's usually on Upwork. Maybe they'll tweet a little bit. One of the things that I did that I think differentiated myself from everyone else was really focusing on distribution first. And what that means is just getting my name out there and getting in and trying to grow the brand as much as possible so that I could get as many eyeballs on what I do as possible. So many scriptwriters aren't that great at that. But what I did was when I launched scriptwriting agency, I launched it with my own YouTube channel. So I have my own YouTube channel that talks about YouTube scriptwriting. And in the past 2-3 months, I think we've grown about like 5,000 subs from like 2 to 7K just off a couple of videos. We have like 12, 13 videos. But they're evergreen assets that I think build a lot of trust. When someone Googles my name, when I send a cold email to someone, when I run an ad to someone, they'll search my name and they'll find my YouTube videos and they'll watch a couple of YouTube videos. And immediately when they get on a call with me or like when they drop me an email, they'll know who I am, right? So I have the content branch out there that really helps get my name out there. It also helps that I have a decently sized Twitter account. I have like 15K followers on Twitter. So literally whenever I have a thought, that I think is somewhat original or that I think will add value to my audience, I'll just tweet it out. Right. And each tweet gets like 1 to 10,000 impressions. And that's also another form of distribution, right? That's another way of getting my name out there. That's also, building network, leveraging network. I think if there's a mistake, it's that scriptwriters don't get their name out there enough, right? That's like aside from the writing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's 100% true with a lot of things. Is some industries it's easy to kind of put your work out there. Like for example, editors. I feel like it's pretty easy to put their work out there and get recognized for their work because you make a cool edit, you go out there. But script writing is kind of like, would you say it's kind of underneath? Like it's a base, it's a foundation for a video, but it's harder to put it out there and distribute to people. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's definitely not something that people think of first, right? It's not something that people think of when they think of a great YouTube video. Really, it takes, like you wouldn't think that YouTube videos are scripted unless you actually make your own YouTube videos.
Yeah.
When I explain the business model to people, they're like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. But it's not something that you would think of immediately. It's more like, something when you're in the weeds, you kind of understand that. I think part of why, scriptwriters don't create their own YouTube videos and don't create distribution like that. Like number one, it's tough to make YouTube videos.
Right.
It's something that I do all the time, and I know it's difficult. You have to start with the idea, and then you have to script, and then you have to film it. You have to make sure you have good camera equipment, and then you have to pay the editors, and you have to manage editors, which is in itself a pain. But whatever's difficult is like worth doing, or whatever's hard is like worth doing, right? So. Like I think in that sense, like number one, it's just difficult to make YouTube videos. And number two, right, a lot of the approach that I have towards my channel is I want to script my own videos to like a high standard so that when people watch my videos, they know, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. The copy that he writes is actually persuasive, it's entertaining, and it's ultimately actionable so that they can go out and they can apply it for their own channel and actually get results. And most scriptwriters, like number one, there just aren't that many scriptwriters out there. And of the scriptwriters who are out there, there really isn't that many people who know how to apply themselves. So I think there's kind of a gap there in terms of, knowing how to apply yourself and also making YouTube videos being extremely hard. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I think, I'm a content creator myself. And so I've researched hundreds of hours worth of videos. And you're right. Like script writing, you don't see it out there very much. And you see editing out there, you see, how to set up your channel, all that stuff, but you don't see script writing very often. They say it's important sometimes it's rarely talked about. So for you to have that out there and to have that huge Twitter following and that big old YouTube subscriber count, it just gives you a push up there. And I think that's why you're definitely seeing some success. And so do a lot of your clients come from your socials?
Yeah, it's mainly my YouTube and my Twitter. So kind of the funnel that I'm running is that I have one big course video. So I have a YouTube scriptwriting course or like a full scriptwriting course guide that's at 80K views now. It's like an hour long. Uh-huh. And basically we funnel all of our traffic from other videos because you can do an end screen at the end of your video, and you can direct all your traffic towards that one video. And then within that one video, I do multiple newsletter call to actions to, hey, if you want to get the PowerPoint slide that I used, you can sign up to the newsletter. And when people sign up to the newsletter, and then they get a bunch of emails from me, and that way we convert into clients. And I think this is super important to understand. It's that you 100% want to funnel people from your YouTube into some sort of owned media owned media being a newsletter. That means you own the attention. You get to go into people's inboxes directly because, whether you like to admit it or not, like YouTube isn't going to last forever, or at least the attention that you have on your YouTube channel isn't going to last forever. If you make one or two bad videos, all of your subscriber count, all of the attention from your subscriber base can disappear overnight, right? If you don't post for 1 month for whatever reason, right? Maybe you fall sick or maybe you go traveling, you won't be able to nurture that attention. That's why it's important to be able to capture that attention first in an email list. And within the email list, then you're able to sell whatever products or whatever services that you want. But it's first and foremost most important to be able to capture that attention. And that's kind of the way that I run it. Yeah.
I like that funnel. I think you're right. I think that's a good approach, is to get them into the email list and then try to sell them from there, because there are a lot of course gurus essentially that are fake. And so I feel like getting them into an email list first and showing them, I'm not fake. Here's my email list. I'm going to give you even more value. I think that is a good way to set them up to sell them and show them you are legit.
Yeah, I think not just that. It's like like the kind of the approach that I have is that I don't want to sell anything on the front end, right? I don't want to sell anything on the YouTube channel, because when you sell stuff directly to people, when it's someone's first contact with you, I don't think that gives off like a good first impression. But whereas if you sell something on the back end, you don't sell something publicly, it's much easier to, number one, get the ask. It's much easier to ask someone to subscribe to your newsletter. I don't think that's a terrible ask. It's like, oh, give me your email and I'll give you a resource, right? So like it's an exchange. There's an exchange. There's a value exchange there. Whereas if you pitch something on the front end, it's a much harder ask. And when it's a much harder ask, and a certain percentage of your audience gets turned off by you trying to sell something on the front end, then it's much harder to like capture that attention. It's much harder to nurture that attention, because they may just click off and they may never come back because they think that you're a sellout. So I think it's important to have some kind of soft pitch to a newsletter, just because it helps improve the longevity of the channel. I think that's something that most people don't talk about, because if you're really going to be doing YouTube and you're really going to take your audience seriously, you're going to want to think about, how am I going to nurture an audience, not just for the first month, second month, but for a year, the next 5 years, for the next 10 years. That's stuff that I'm thinking about.
Yeah. Is it just you running this, or you have a team?
Yeah, so I have a team. So we have the content side of things, and then we have the agency side of things. As for the agency, we have 2 writers on the team. So two writers helping to manage clients, helping to make sure that the content that we write for them is really good. And then there's the content side of things in terms of who scripts it. I script my own videos still, and then I have a thumbnail guy. He's a freelancer, and then I have an editing agency that I work with who helps edit all of the content.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. So you got a team behind you. Those script writers, are they trained by you, or did they have some experience and you just give them guidance, or how'd that happen?
Yeah, so ideally they have some sort of experience, right? Either in copywriting, so that means that's writing sales pages, that's writing landing pages, or directly in script writing, because script writing, the scale is more so storytelling. So ideally they have some kind of background in both, or at the very least in one. And like internally, we train our writers a ton. We have a bunch of meetings, we have a bunch of training resources, to get them from 0 to 1, to really give them good business education, so that we can write all of these education scripts that we do. So it's a very intensive process, and we have a huge vetting process for people that we bring onto the team.
Yeah, well, I bet, because you got a reputation on the line. So yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So are there any big names that I've heard of that you work with?
Yeah, a couple big names that we work with. Jordan Welch, he has like 1.6 million subscribers. A lot of B2B SaaS companies like Instantly AI. If you send code email, we grew that channel from like 0 to 20 or like 25K subscribers. Hype Theory, they're a tweet scheduling tool. Davey Fogarty, we wrote a couple of scripts for him. He's big in the e-commerce space. He's one of the Shark Tank Australia sharks. Mm-hmm. And vidIQ, we wrote a couple of scripts for them. They're like 2 million subscribers. They're the biggest YouTube education channel. So yeah, we've written for a couple of big names, and hopefully a couple more in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of all of those. So that's awesome.
Perfect.
That's pretty cool. What does Jordan do exactly? I've seen his name so many times. He's ecom, right?
Yeah. So he started off, I think, in 2016 or 2017, or like like 5 years ago. 5 years ago actually would be 2019. Yeah, so he started off in 2019. He started making e-commerce dropshipping videos, and I think he had a coaching program for that. And he did a bunch of affiliate stuff and sponsorship stuff back then. But now he's all like as of recent, the past 1-2 years, he's kind of broadened a little bit into talking about some videos are on crypto. Some videos are just interviews talking to cool entrepreneurs. And some of it's like talking head stuff where he talks to young entrepreneurs about how to make, how to get rich, how to be financially independent, and how to start their own business. Yeah.
So he's kind of hit that point where he can branch out a bit. Yeah. See, I think I watched him back in the drop shipping days because, when drop shipping came out, every kid with a little entrepreneurial dream was like, I'm going to do drop shipping. And so I was one of them. So I was watching every drop shipping video, and he was one that popped up a lot. So that's where I've heard his name, and I've seen him on Instagram a lot since then. So that's pretty cool. And vidIQ, I've watched, oh my gosh, dozens, hundreds of their videos over the years. So that's pretty cool, man.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah. If you had to give one piece of advice to aspiring entrepreneurs, what would your piece of advice be?
My piece of advice would be to stay humble. I think it's very easy to make a little bit of online money, and like a lot of this online money is pretty ridiculous. It like compounds really fast, especially if you sell high ticket, right? If you sell a $3,000 a month thing, 1 month you could be at $3,000 a month, next month you could be at $9,000 a month, which is crazy. That means you 3x your income, and it's very easy for it to get blown out of proportion really fast, and it's really easy for a lot of this quick, fast, high ticket money to get to your head, and you go out and start making ridiculous purchases. So, but I think it's really important, especially if you're young and you're just getting started, to stay grounded, to like stay grounded to your roots, it's like keep, if you like your hometown friends, ideally like stay friends with them, and don't let whatever like fast money kind of change you, or like change like the trajectory, or like change the way that you handle yourself, and the way that you present yourself. I think it's very easy to kind of let the ego get to your head, and you start learning all these sales stuff, and and you start like framing people. I think that's kind of odd. I think it's important to stay grounded. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very true, and I agree. It is hard for it not to go to your head sometimes, because
For sure.
I know, like for myself personally, I work 100-hour weeks most weeks. And so I'll look around at people, and they'll call me lucky sometimes, Oh, you're lucky you get to do that. You're lucky that. And I'm like, yeah, but you work 40 hours a week and I work 100. And it's like, it's hard not to compare yourself to others and get like annoyed with them, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. But you are lucky. Like we are like super lucky. So like that's also something that you don't want to discount, right? Obviously, there's a lot of hard work, but imagine if we weren't in this space at this correct time, we wouldn't be able to just be doing whatever. Like I'm in freaking Japan now. I'm in Kyoto. I don't even know what I'm doing in Kyoto. So I went to Vid Summit, I went to Dallas, and literally 10 days later, I'm in Tokyo and I'm in Kyoto, and I'm just traveling. I'm just doing whatever. And like there's none of my hometown friends from Singapore are doing what I'm doing. At least not that I know of, right? And I'm like super fortunate and super lucky, of course, to be able to do what I do. And I think it's important to not forget that you're lucky. So when people say that you're lucky, there's obviously some element of that. You kind of have to accept that. But I think it's just like coming back to understanding that you were lucky, just like it's right place, right time. Most of the time it's not that you're super duper smart. Like you don't need to be super duper smart. You don't need to be a genius. You just need to be a little bit hardworking, and right place, right time. I think that's something I believe in.
Yeah, I see. I think the thing with luck is I always think and say I'm lucky to be born with this mindset, but I'm not lucky for the work that I put in, because the work is manual. I forced myself to do it. But I'm lucky to have the mindset that I am, because I'm blessed with that. And I agree with you on that. But the part that I think annoys me isn't the part that they're calling me lucky. It's the part that they're saying it out of jealousy and envy, instead of being glad for a friend, happy for a friend, I guess. I think that's the part that annoys me and frustrates me with when people say that is it's like they're basically thinking that all of it was just given to you by luck. We're like, yes, you were put in the right place at the right time, but you worked. You worked your ass off to get to where you are. And so they're saying it out of a jealousy and envy because they want the thing you have, but they don't want to put in the work that you put in. So
Yeah, I mean those are I think the worst people to surround yourself with because people with just that kind of bad energy or like like bad vibrations, like whatever people call it, right? You definitely don't want to surround yourself with that because that will like it's like a virus, it will infect you and it will infect the people around you and it will slowly start to affect the work that you do. That's why it's sometimes for a lot of people it's difficult to stay in your hometown, right? And just be in one spot, especially when you're kind of starting on this entrepreneurial journey. Like a year ago, I was in the military, right? And I absolutely hated my job. So it was like the stuff that you can change in such a short period of time. It's like so drastic just because of the work that you put in. And it's difficult for people to keep up. So I have a level of empathy. I kind of see why they say what they say. But it's because you put in all of the work and you change your time and you have to understand that like most people don't change for like a long period of time. So it's yeah, like definitely I think distance yourself, but also like empathize with them. Yeah.
yeah. See, I'm always the type that I will never shy away from trying to give someone advice, like entrepreneurial advice, money advice, anything of that sort, which sometimes it's the weirdest thing. Some people will say that I'm too young to have that knowledge and that experience, which is another frustration because it's like, yeah, but I've done it. Just because I'm young, I've still done it. And I just little frustrations like that. And I don't understand that with people. But I also want to go back to your point that you said of negative energy and just people being downing. It's very sticky. Negative energy is sticky. If you're around people that are very
Absolutely.
negative all the time and are very just down, everything sucks, da 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 da, it's gonna get to you. No matter how strong your mindset is, you're gonna feel a little more down than you would. You get those downs more often. And so yeah, surrounding yourself with people that aren't like that or aren't like that very often at least is super important. And it's super important to cut out conversations and cut out little statements that people will make. Just something will happen and they'll overreact or they'll freak out or act a certain way, and just trying to shut that down I think is a big thing because you can't always control your circle. Sometimes you just are around people that you have to be around. You can't always curate it exactly how you want it or exactly how you optimally think it would be. So sometimes you got to have to kind of try to influence them in the opposite way, as opposed to letting their negative energy be sticky on you. Let your positive energy be sticky on them.
Yeah, well, 100%. What I would say is I think we underestimate our ability to curate the people that we surround ourselves with. I think we're a lot more capable of just like flat out cutting people out if need be, right? If that person is really toxic and it's not something that's good for you. I think we really underestimate our ability to just, hey, bye. This isn't working for me, right? Because I've had like people that I spent a lot of time with that after only a couple of months I realized, hey, I don't think that this person is like is a good influence for me. I don't necessarily agree with this person's values. I've heard a lot of bad things behind the scenes about me or about them, and I don't think working with them necessarily aligns with my values. I don't want to be have this kind of environment that I'm working in. So I think it's totally okay. It's definitely more difficult to distance yourself from people and give yourself permission to, hey, I don't think this is for me, right? Just because whatever reason you like there isn't enough self-love, or you don't think that, or like you think that the other person will be bad, or you think that there'll be whatever huge repercussions and whatever huge consequences, but most of the time there isn't,
Right.
and a lot of it is imaginary. So I think we just need to give ourselves permissions to, like number one, like put ourselves first, right?
Yeah.
Rather than, like other people, as selfish as that sounds. But, we kind of all have to be selfish in some capacity, I would say.
True. That is 100% true. You definitely have to be selfish to a degree. And then that selfishness, I kind of feel like I was going to say if you're selfish enough, it starts to radiate and help others, but I think that's the wrong way of framing it. I think that you become selfish enough for yourself that you get what you need, and then if you're the right type of mindset behind you, you want to start providing for others as well. And so I feel like you take that selfishness and then you can help other people with it essentially. If you get what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
because you can't really help others until you have like abundance in yourself.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, when you're like overflowing with so much happiness, then you kind of start spreading that happiness. Or like
Yeah.
when you're overflowing with so much wealth, then you kind of start spreading that wealth. But it's difficult to do that if you don't already have, your bottle filled, or like if you don't already have your
Right.
cup filled. So really, I think, as pretty young guys, you kind of have to focus on filling your own cup first
True.
before you start filling others. But it's definitely difficult to just like say, hi, I'm gonna be selfish for a couple of years, right? And
Yep.
and it's not necessarily a short amount of time. It could be 1 year. It's more likely 5 years, 10 years,
Yep.
15 years, where you really have to just put your head down and say, hey, I'm doing this. I'm gonna do this for me so that I can do this for you in the future.
Right.
Right. That's something that takes a lot of courage to say.
Yeah, it does. Yep. You're very, very right. So my last question for you is going forward, how are you looking to expand and grow?
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm super bullish on is YouTube, right? I run a YouTube script writing agency. I think that YouTube's going to be the future. I think there's a huge gap in terms of script writing knowledge on YouTube, right? Especially just talking about long form content. So really, I'm just gonna double down on the content, because really that's, like you can either do more of it, or you can do it better, or you can, start something new. But you ideally want to do something more, and you want to do something better. So right now, my YouTube production is kind of lacking. I'm not posting as much as I could be, as I should be. So really, the next step for me is posting more YouTube videos. And I think, this script writing market and my YouTube channel has legs to grow. Right now it's at 7K subs. Ideally in 12 months, I think we could be at 100K subs. I think that would be pretty cool. That's one of the big goals that I have. And I think one of the interesting things with YouTube is, if you build a following to 100K subs and you have the owned media of a newsletter, the newsletter would probably be anywhere between 30K to 50K subs. It's something that when you build, you really can't go broke with, right? It's tough. It's tough to go broke when you have that much attention around you. So really, the focus next 12 to 24 months, just build as much attention around me, and naturally, the business will just elevate together with that, I would say.
Awesome. That sounds like a great plan. But I lied. I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
AI. AI is getting pretty good, and script writing is something that it does not do as good as a human. Not at all. Especially a high performing human. Not even close. But as AI gets better, what's your plan to kind of combat that?
Yeah, like as for my specific niche, I'm not too worried about AI right now. One of the reasons I say that is because, especially when you're working with personal brands and education creators, a lot of the content that performs really well is niche insights that you only get from doing the thing, right? So for example, Alex Hormozi, he runs all of these businesses. That's why he's able to create good business content, because it's really niche insight that you only get from experience. So really my job is to extract these niche insights and package them in an interesting way, for the viewer to consume, right? And in an interesting way, in an easy way, and an entertaining way for them to consume. And right now, AI just doesn't have a way in order to generate those insights without like proper input from the creator. So that's kind of my job in the education niche. It's tough to replicate that if you're an AI, right? Like maybe at some point you'll be able to get that, but I don't think it will be as authentic. So in terms of my niche, I'm not too worried. there's other niches on YouTube that could definitely be replicated by AI. So, stuff like storytelling,
Yeah.
like those faceless storytelling channels, those documentary channels. That's something that AI is the first to go for because those scripts are relatively generic. The storytelling is not too complex. That's something that you can replicate with AI. There isn't specific niche insight, right? So yeah, like in terms of how I'm gonna combat that, like number one, just focusing on the niche, on the education niche, and really just doubling down, really understanding it on a deep level, right? And really differentiating the content in terms of insights rather than just value, right? So there's insight-based content and then there's value-based content. You want to have insight-based content because that's how you differentiate. That's how the personal brand is built around. Whereas value is something that's, I think, these days more so commoditized. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't think of that. That's true. Yeah, you definitely got that over AI. That's for sure. Awesome, man.
I like to think so. Yeah.
I think you're good. I think you'll do amazing in business, even keep growing. I'm rooting for you, man.
Yeah, man. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, that's all I got for you.
Okay. Cheers.
Have a good one, man.
Have a good one. Okay. Peace, bro.